What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of Smoke World. I'm your host, Joe. So sit back, grab that stick, go grab a glass, whatever you're drinking, and let's have a conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at SmokeWorld50, and you can send those emails to SmokeWorld50@gmail.com. Today's guest is Sailor, and she is a representative from Uncle Nearest the Whiskey. If you're not familiar, go check it out. She's going to break it down, tell you all about it. Sailor, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Man, hanging in there. How's everything going on that side of town? Because you're on the West Coast, is that correct?
I am. I am in Washington State. I'm in the mountains in eastern Washington.
Oh, wow.
So it's, we've had a lot of problems with the smoke from the wildfires, but it's cleared out now, and we don't have fall yet, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I can't complain.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you guys are hanging in there. That's good stuff. That's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so now you work for Uncle Nearest. You're a rep. And how long have you been doing that?
Oh, boy. Let's see. I've been with Uncle Nearest for about a year and a half, maybe longer. I've been in the whiskey business for probably 12 to 15 years now. And the drinks industry, I've been in I think most of my life. I started working at 15.
Oh, wow. We won't tell nobody. We won't tell nobody who's illegal working in the stills. Making moonshines in the back.
I was just in a restaurant, but I might have been it, but that's all right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So a long time is the answer. Long
Now,
time.
are you from that area?
I am not. So I'm originally from New York City. I'm a Queens girl from Astoria. Okay. I am, and I'm in my 40s. So if anyone is familiar with Queens back then, I'm a Greek girl because that was pretty dominant in Queens. Astoria, Queens. Yep. And then moved all over the world. I've lived everywhere. And Boston became my home for most of my adult life. So
you got your little accent? You got a Boston pocket car accent? No? Or you kind of got rid of that when you went over to the West Coast?
No, I didn't really develop an accent because we moved so much.
Okay.
So I could do it though. If I've had a few drinks in me, I can pull it out if I need
to. All right. So how'd you get the job with Uncle Nearest? I mean, was that through a friend, or was it something online that you saw, or how did that come about?
Yeah, it's funny because those of us that started with the brand early versus now, so our last few hires, I would say for the past, 8 months maybe, did the normal thing. They saw a job posting and sent a resume and were interviewed, and it was all very normal. For the rest of us, it wasn't really like that. Some of us were, for example, my co-host on Must See Whiskey TV, Jay Madison from Atlanta, he was a bartender at One Flew South in the airport, and Fawn sat down and had a drink. And she started talking about, it was very, very early days, how she was just launching this brand. And that's how he got the job. Me, I read a story on social media about it, and I saw Fawn actually post, and Fawn is our founder and CEO. I saw her post a comment on it, and so I just sent her a message on Facebook.
Social media, you gotta love it.
Said, yeah, exactly. I think it went, I have never looked at it because I feel like I'd be embarrassed if I looked at it now. It said something like, I have to work for you and you have to have me work for you. Something along those lines.
Hey, it works. It works.
It works.
Hey, that's how we connected through social media. So, hey, it works. Social media does work, people.
Works. Yes, it does. I think for me, when I read the story initially, I'm a woman, and when I got into this industry, it was, really not welcoming for me. This is something we know about the spirits industry. It's something we know about whiskey in specific. I'm not telling a new story here. So when I saw that there was a Black woman who had launched a brand named after a Black man who was a slave previously, to where our story picks up. I just thought, what?
Yeah.
This is going to change everything. Like, this is literally going to change my industry in a way that I never even thought in my lifetime I would see something like this happen. I thought that we were just going to have to continue doing what I've been doing, working in it, encouraging other women to come in, making space for them, minorities, making space, helping, allyship, all of that, and time, right? But not this. This I knew was something different, and I had to be a part of it.
There you are. And there you are. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the story. Now, could you share that story, for folks who are not familiar with the Uncle Nearest story? You touched on it briefly, but it's an amazing story. Could you share that with the listeners?
Absolutely. I would love to. This is the time when, if you're not drinking whiskey already, I would say pause, hit the pause button, grab yourself some Uncle Nearest. You should be able to find it in any liquor store in the United States. If you can't find it in your local liquor store, just ask them to bring it in, or you can get it from our website. So just a little plug there.
Absolutely.
You definitely want to taste
it's a great.
it.
I had both. I had the 1856 and the 1884. It's absolutely delicious.
So good, right?
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. We'll talk about why that whiskey is so good as well. But this is the part of the story that's perfect to take some puffs on your cigar and have some sips. So the story starts somewhere in the mid 1800s. There was a farm in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and it was owned by a young preacher who was also a farmer and a miller. And when you would mill grain, you would have excess grain often, and you would typically distill that grain. Now, on what level you would distill that would be maybe for your own, what was called a kitchen product back then, your own consumption.
Okay.
Or if you were milling for others, you would probably sell that also. It was a better use and a better bang for your buck, because you really didn't have the capability of holding grain for very long back then. We didn't have, you didn't steel drums and plastic and things like that.
Okay.
So he rented a slave. He was not wealthy enough to be a slave owner, and that man was Nearest Green. And he was known to be an excellent distiller. And at the time, that's saying a lot. It's not like it is now, because there's distilleries everywhere then.
Right.
So came onto this farm, and he began distilling for the preacher. And shortly after that, a young boy from down the street, it's the country, so it was probably
down the road
half a mile away.
Down the road a piece.
Down the road a piece. Yeah, see, I'm a city girl. Down the street.
Yeah, down the street. Down the road a piece by the big tree.
Right. So this little boy, who is between 7 and 9 years old, comes to the farm and asks this preacher, "Could I please be your chore boy and live here?" He was unhappy in his home life. His father had passed away. His mother had passed away, and his stepmother, they had just tons of children, and he just wasn't happy. So he left.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The preacher had a wife and a new baby. So they said yes. And he turned out to be a very hard worker, and was very, very interested in what was going on up in the hill. So the preacher had the house that they lived in. They had a little general store, and then, a barn, of course. And finally, he asked the preacher, "Could I please, I want more information about what's going up on that hill." And so he took him up there, and he introduced him to Nearest. And he said to this boy, "This is the best stiller I know." That's, again, saying a lot.
Absolutely. Back in that time. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. I think there was 11 distilleries in just a couple mile radius, I think, at the time. So he said to Nearest, "I would like you to teach this young boy everything you know about whiskey making." And so he did. So they ended up working together. And at some point, Nearest is emancipated and he makes the decision to stay on the farm. From what we understand, he was paid well for what he was doing. And they started to work together. So this young boy became a teenager and was taking care of the marketing aspects and the distribution. And Nearest was making the whiskey, and it was working out really, really well. And then at some point, when this young man in his late teens, early 20s, the preacher's wife has had enough. Mm-hmm. So the whiskey making and the congregation are kind of not okay with each other.
Church folks ain't down with the moonshine.
Not them. They were that.
Well, I'm pretty sure half the members probably were drinking the moonshine, but we won't talk about that right now.
Sure, exactly. So he decides he just sells the business, so to speak, which was really a business that Nearest and this young man built. He sells it to the young man, and the young man's name is Jack Daniels. So the farm that this all happened on is called the Dan Call Farm, and this is the birthplace of Jack Daniels whiskey. So Uncle Nearest was the first master distiller for Jack Daniels. He's the first African-American master distiller on record in the U.S., which is a really important distinction. He absolutely is not the first master distiller. He's the only one on record. And now it's been years and years of research done by Fawn and a team of researchers, and we still don't find a name on record. So it's very important to us to make that distinction.
Absolutely.
But why he was named, who knows? It's just an absolute anomaly, but incredible because we can see him on census records for a period of time. Mm-hmm. So then Jack was ready to move the distillery to another location, which is where it sits now. And he was going to upgrade to new equipment because now the column still was popular. You wouldn't be using a pot still anymore. It's more efficient to use a column still. Okay. And nearest to that, his retirement age, and his sons were already working, distilling with him. And he said, I'm going to retire and I'm going to let the boys learn this newfangled technology. And that was 1884 is the last time we see him put a barrel down. And we know that 1886, I believe, is when the new distillery opened. And so it was the sons so his eldest son was the second master distiller for Jack Daniels. But during the process, while Nearest was on the Dan Call farm, he developed a technique that is crucial to Tennessee whiskey. As a matter of fact, you cannot call the whiskey Tennessee whiskey without this crucial step. And that's what Jack Daniels called it, is charcoal mellowing the brand, and we just call it charcoal filtering. Okay. It's the Lincoln County process because they were in Lincoln County.
Gotcha.
So one other interesting thing that Fawn discovered in all of her research was that the process that she was able to trace of charcoal filtering, which is done by, this is a process used in spirits and water for a long time, came from West Africa. You see the West Africans using it to purify beer and water and preserve food. So it makes sense that this would be, technology that Nearest would have a lot of experience, probably from whoever trained him and taught him. But specifically, Nearest perfected the process of using the sugar maple, and that's because that's what was growing on the farm.
Oh, okay.
And then the way he treated the process, which was very, very different than how others were doing it. So again, Nearest didn't invent the process; it was being used before that, but he perfected it specifically for the Lincoln County process. So he is the godfather of Tennessee whiskey.
Wow. Now, do we know where Nearest is from originally? No.
We believe he was from what Fawn found out, he was born in Baltimore, and we don't know if he was born a slave or not. Okay. That we're unsure because of the time in history. He wasn't able to verify that. And we believe that he was sent down to Kentucky at some point and then made it to Tennessee.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Now you mentioned charcoal filter. What is,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, I can't say I know all about that. What exactly is that process? Can you touch on that a little bit? Just give us
So
an idea what that would be.
yeah. So think about a Brita water pitcher,
Okay.
right? You have your Brita pitcher and you're pouring water through that little filter. Inside that filter is activated
Okay.
charcoal. Boom. That's all it
Oh,
is.
wow.
So it's a similar process, but what you're doing is you are filtering before you put the whiskey into the barrels, and you're doing it. It's a slow and low process, we call it. It's a slow method. That's why the Jack Daniel's brand called it charcoal mellowing. It smooths out the whiskey, especially when you were drinking whiskey unaged, which was very, very common, really until mid to late 1800s. So it made a finer whiskey.
Okay.
It creates a more premium product. So of course, we use the Lincoln County process in our whiskey, and we actually do 2 extra steps of filtering as well. And just having a really great filtering method changes everything about the whiskey for the good. You run the risk of filtering it too much and taking out all the flavor and getting vodka, for example.
Oh, wow. Really?
Which you So, you really have to know what you're doing and know how much you want to filter and what you're looking to filter out and what you want to keep in, and what the best way to do that is. And so the charcoal filtration, the Lincoln County process, is just a really fantastic way to filter whiskey and get a beautiful product.
Okay. Now you got whiskey here. Now, is there a difference between the whiskey and the bourbon?
So yeah, that's a great question. That's most people really don't understand the difference because bourbon has been so dominant in American whiskey for so long. So Tennessee whiskey is bourbon.
Oh, okay.
We have to do all of the things bourbon has to do, but then we do our extra step, which is that Lincoln County process. So it's bourbon plus 1 step, which makes it a more premium product. It takes longer, it's more expensive, more labor intensive, time consuming. So it's a more premium product in the end. But it is a bourbon.
Okay, it is a bourbon. Okay, now, as with cigars, we age cigars, for a certain period of time. Now, is the whiskey aged for a certain period of time, changes the complexity of the flavor?
Yes. Very similar to cigars. How you're aging it, where you're aging it, how long you're aging it, that all matters. There's so many similarities between cigars and whiskey, and I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I don't know if you watched that one or not. On there's fermentation happening, right. The aging. I went crazy. I was like, oh my god, it's so exciting, because I'm new to my cigar journey.
That's what I was about to say. I think I saw you there one time. He's like, okay, I think you had the Cohiba with Sean Williams, and you guys were doing the Cohiba. Yeah. And he was like, I'm new to the cigars. Okay. And you were at a lounge. So I think you were at, whose lounge is that you were at? I'll be kind of jumping around a little bit.
I was at the Northern Quest Casino here in Washington, and they let me take over their humidor.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah, you were. That's right. Yeah, you were in the humidor. It's like, yeah, go in there, get out of here, get in the humidor. Go take a smoke, relax yourself.
Exactly.
Oh man. Now, speaking of things that you do, you're a mixologist. And I've seen a few things that you got posted on social media. Looks delicious. Now, you have a background in that. Now, maybe you can share some of those. Okay, let's talk about this. Since we deal with Uncle Nearest, what would you recommend? Because a lot of folks don't really, I'm running into folks, I'm at the lounge and we got bottles of Uncle Nearest. But there is a dilemma on what to mix it with, if anything. And pretty much you just put ice on it and, puff away. But you maybe give some ideas on what we can try, maybe some good little recipes, because I know you make a little bit of everything. So what would you recommend with the Uncle Nearest?
Yeah, so first of all, an important rule is what's the right way and the best way to drink whiskey? The answer is however the hell you like it.
Have it your way, like Burger King. Have it your way. Okay.
Exactly. And that is the right way. That is the best way, truly. Don't let anyone tell you that, if you put ice on it or drink a cocktail, you're ruining the whiskey. That's a load of garbage. That's not true. Once you buy that bottle, it's yours to do with as you please, and we just want you to enjoy it. And I do all of the above. I drink whiskey neat sometimes. Sometimes I like to add an ice cube to it, and sometimes I like to have a cocktail. Depends on the situation. They're all
Depends on your
wonderful.
mood.
Yeah, your mood, weather and seasons affects it. Am I eating or not eating? And what whiskey is it? Is it what proof level is the whiskey? Um, and is this whiskey new to you? Sometimes you'll find that if there's a whiskey new to you, I tell people to add just a little splash of soda water and one ice cube, really enjoy it. And then after a while, you've really learned that flavor and you might enjoy it neat after that or not. There are some whiskeys I don't enjoy neat. I have to put something with them and I love it. Even if it's just like a little twist of lemon with some ice and it's perfect. And then there are some whiskeys I only drink neat. Again, it's very subjective. And again, to use the cigar analogy, you find out what are you craving tonight? How do you decide which stick to choose? If you're lucky enough to have a little collection, right? Or you're going to go buy something, how do you choose that? And it's based on a lot of things, oh, I've been really into this lately, or I'm drinking or smoking a lot of that lately, or I heard about this one. So just enjoy it and have fun with it. As far as cocktails go, right now is a great time for home bartenders because people like me I'm in my state, we're pretty quarantined still. We're not doing gatherings and things like that. So we're sharing our recipes all over the place online. We've got videos of us making cocktails so you can follow through. We have shows every Thursday on the Uncle Nearest Facebook page. And once a month, we have our master blender, Victoria Edie Butler, and she makes cocktails. I'll talk about her in a minute because there's some really like it gives you goosebumps.
The rock stars.
Some magical.
Yeah, you got some rock stars in that group.
Yeah. For me, an old fashioned is really a favorite. Very easy to make. You're really just adding. You put your whiskey in a glass over a nice big cube, and you add maybe a teaspoon of maple syrup, a couple shakes of bitters, and then I like to use a lemon peel, and you just squeeze that on top, and that's it.
Oh, wow.
That's an old fashioned.
Oh, wow. Okay. Folks, did you hear that? Okay, maybe better tell them again, because I said, oh, wait a minute, say that again. Tell them that recipe again.
Okay, so in this case, I would say use 3 ounces of whiskey.
Okay.
And you just a regular rocks glass, old fashioned glass, short glass, and then go ahead and I like to use one of the big ice cubes.
Okay.
And put a big ice cube in there, and then add a tablespoon or a teaspoon of maple syrup. Depends on how sweet you like it. The maple syrup just complements our whiskey perfectly. And then you take your favorite bitters, and there's so many fun bitter flavors now, whatever you like, and do a couple of shakes. And then stir it up a little bit and squeeze a little bit of an orange or a lemon peel on top, and you've got an old fashioned.
Oh man, yeah, getting free lessons on Smoke World. Learn how to make drinks. Sellers breaking it down for us, breaking it down. Okay, so now we got one of those recipes. I need at least 2 recipes. I'm sorry, I need 2 good cocktails for the folks here because they're gonna say, Stone, this lady knows her stuff. Of course, that's why she's on Smoke World. So what else do you have? Again, the fall's coming now. We're getting into the fall. Is there anything you could think of? Say, you know what, that'd be a nice, good fall drink while you're sitting at the lounge, or maybe you're sitting by a fire that you got outside. What would the second cocktail be for us?
So old fashions are perfect cold weather cocktails. So that would be perfect for that. Also, an easy thing you can do is the same recipe I just gave you. Do all the same exact things, except take a little bit of some baking spices, like maybe some apple pie spice or pumpkin pie spice. You can buy those little guys, that you use for pies, and just do a couple of shakes in there. Don't use the ice cube, and then fill it up with water. And you can do this in a mug. Put it in the microwave. heat it up for like 2 minutes, and you have a hot toddy.
Wow.
Boom.
Okay, boom. Put you to sleep.
Same recipe.
After that, you go to sleep.
And you will, and I tell you what, it keeps you healthy. I promise.
Wow. Okay, you got hot toddies. Now, let me ask another question, too.
So the hot toddies are.
Now, as I think about this, and I don't know how I jumped around, but Uncle Nearest here in the U.S., I've been hearing some rumors. Is there an Uncle Nearest that's in, I guess, overseas that is not in the U.S.?
So no, we have a brand ambassador in Uncle Nearest, and he lives in London, and he takes care of all of our British territories. The way people got confused because there was something called Uncle Nearest Ltd, and that's just because of the way trade laws work. And what's the best way to handle distribution in another country. Every territory, every country is completely different. Every state, for that matter, in the United States is completely different. Okay. But it is us. There's only one Uncle Nearest. So you can enjoy our whiskey in
here and abroad.
The UK. You can, yep, and in Japan. And then we are able to ship to several other countries as well. From our online partner. So, yeah.
And how long has Uncle Nearest been on the market now? How long is...
So Uncle Nearest has been on the market for 2.5 years now. Almost 3 years. Okay. Yeah, 3 years. And the way Uncle Nearest came to the market, the way the story happened is really, it's so mind-blowing. So Fawn Weaver, who I mentioned previously, is the one who brought the story to light. So she happened to be on a trip overseas with her husband and opened up the New York Times. And there was an article written by a man called Clay Risen. And he's a popular drinks and spirits writer, but he also has written a lot about civil rights in the civil rights era. So 2 passions of his. So he wrote a story called Jack Daniel's, A Hidden Ingredient from a Slave. Mm-hmm. And kind of told the story as much as he could get, as much information, and if you're just writing an article, you don't really have a big budget and a lot of time to do research, unfortunately. That's correct. It wasn't a front page article. So, with as much as he could gather, he wrote he did an excellent job. And Fawn read this, and she did not come from the spirits industry. But I think, like with most people, she read it and thought, whoa, Jack Daniel's is one of the most globally recognized brands. And if an African American who was a slave at the time, no less, is responsible really for this product, this could change. Like, whoa, just right. I mean, it's just, and I've watched people's minds get blown when I tell this story all the time, and I never get used to it. I love it.
That's mind blowing.
But it really, you could change. Yeah. And so she rushed home, and at the time she's already a best-selling author. She wrote a book previously. And so she thinks, I'm going to write a book about this. And so she convinces her husband, they lived in LA at the time, to take a trip to Tennessee so that she could do some research and see if she could really corroborate this whole story and dig into it and find out more information. And so she, on her first trip down, she hit the library. She was there for 2 days straight doing research where the county records lived. And at some point, a descendant of Jack Daniel came and confronted her and said, I heard you want to write a story about my family. And Fawn looked her in the face and said, look, I'm here to tell a story of love, honor, and respect. And if that's not this story, I won't tell it.
Truth to power.
And she trusted her. Yeah. And so she said, okay. And she opened up her phone and gave her the contact information for the descendants of Nearest and her family. And so I think that blew Fawn away more, to be able to be in touch with the descendants of Nearest. The plenty of them still live in Lynchburg. You still have Greens working for Jack Daniel's. They all grew up together. And so she started contacting family members and recording stories and gathering photos and, just everything that she could get. She hired archivists and researchers, and she's putting out newspaper articles asking, if you are a descendant or have any knowledge or information or anything, get in touch with me. The crazy thing is, let's go back to when I first told the story, that farm that everything happened on,
Yes.
the Dan Call farm. It happened to be for sale.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the birthplace of this story, and really of Jack Daniel's whiskey, where this all began, it was for sale. And Fawn, one of the family members, told Fawn, and they couldn't believe it. I wouldn't have believed it either.
Absolutely not at all. What's the chances of that? What's the chances?
Right. Exactly. So someone gave her the card of the realtor, and the realtor was this really, really lovely Southern woman with this beautiful blonde hair, and drove them to the property, showed it to them, and they bought it. Purchased it right away, which I would have done anything to buy it too.
Wow.
And yeah, so, and at the time, Vaughn told the real estate agent what she was doing. And, again, they think they're making a book and probably also a movie, because Fawn's husband is in the movie business. Okay. So she said to them, the realtor said, well, if at any time you decide you want to make whiskey, get in touch with me. Let me know. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Fawn was kind of like,
exactly. What? Like, what are you talking about? You make moonshine too?
Exactly. Like, what are you? She was just like, okay, and just kind of, put it to the back of her mind, because of course she had no intention of making whiskey or launching a brand at that point at all. So one of the first things she did is she found out where Nearest is buried. He is buried in the same cemetery with Jack Daniel. It is a segregated cemetery, so there's a fence in between, of course. We don't know the exact spot of Nearest's grave, but we do know the gravesite. And so she had a memorial built, which is absolutely beautiful, and anyone can visit it. And then there was a specific book that she felt was the most comprehensive biography of Jack Daniel, and it was written by a man named Ben Green, no relation, mm-hmm. and he wrote it in the 1960s. And the reason this book stood out to her so much is that Nearest was mentioned over 55 times in the book, and mentioned more than Jack's own family. And the only people interviewed for the book that were relations were Jack's family.
Interesting.
So if you have all of them, right, mentioning Nearest so much, that tells you something.
Yeah, he was prominent. Very prominent.
Right. And there was right. So this book was out of print at the time. So Fawn was able to purchase the publishing rights to it. And she wrote a new foreword and designed a new cover. And all of those proceeds went to, and still go to, an education foundation that Fawn set up for the descendants of Nearest Green. We're trying to fix that generational wealth gap.
I was going to ask that question about the descendants. Did they, receive any, I guess not say royalties, but I guess that's what it would be, any residuals from the income? Because Jack Daniels is around the world, very popular brand around the world. And I was curious, did the Uncle Nearest descendants settle up, receive anything, or that's still in litigation?
So I don't believe, none of this, there's no negativity to the story. And as I get a little further along, I think you'll understand why. I can't speak to what the family has received or not received, because it's just not information that's been shared with me. I don't know that it would be public. What I do know is that in addition to this, so descendants of Nearest Green can get an education for free, all in, full bright scholarship. And if that means, undergrad, graduate, PhD, any of it, all of it. And we have, I believe, put over 11, maybe 13 now, descendants through college, fully paid. We also, so as this is all happening, Fawn obviously reaches out to Brown Foreman and the historian of Jack Daniel, along with descendants of Jack's family. And, you know, they recognize that they need to fix their story. They need to fix their brand history. And they do. And they built a room that's now exists in the Jack Daniel's distillery. It's the nearest green room. And it's the waiting area before you get on your tour. And the descendants of Nearest were the ones that cut that ribbon on that room, which was really beautiful. Okay. So Fawn's doing all these things, and she says to the family, she has them all together and says, what else can I do to honor this man? What else can I do to make sure this legacy lives on? And they all kind of looked at each other and said, put his name on a bottle of whiskey.
Right. There you go. Say no more.
Jack's name is on a bottle of whiskey. Why isn't Nearest name, right? So she was like, okay. Crap. Now I'm going to have to do this. Damn. Yep, exactly. So she's speaking to one of the family members. They said, well, you know who your real estate agent is, don't you? Sherry Moore. And she's like, no. And they said, well, Sherry Moore worked for Jack Daniel's for over 30 something years and retired. And she was the director of whiskey production. Wow. She's a master distiller.
What? Yeah, the story's getting better and better. Just, you sure you ain't making this stuff up? This
not making it up. Yeah, so she is also a descendant of Jack. She's a Motlow. So Jack did not have his own children, but his siblings did. And the Motlows were the ones that were closest and were involved in the brand. So she's a Motlow. So so Fawn goes to her and said, if you will come out of retirement, I will create a whiskey brand. And she said yes, and they did.
So actually, Uncle Nearest, I guess, is under the umbrella of Jack Daniel's in all reality. So it's not or just a standalone brand. Okay.
Standalone. We're an independent brand. We have nothing to do with them as far as ownership goes. We don't use their whiskey. We don't use their facility. Sherry had already been retired from the company. I mean, we're intrinsically connected in our histories. Okay. But as far as business goes, it was very important for Fawn to remain independent. Gotcha. We'll do so, I'm assuming, forever, independent of, any ownership from Jack, because that just wouldn't be right. So she got Sherry on board, and Sherry began, we had, first you source whiskey. And then we started distilling our own whiskey, and we've been putting a whiskey away for, I believe, 2.5, almost 3 years now. Mm-hmm. It's not yet, but we source whiskey from a distillery in Tennessee, and then we do our own aging, and we do our own 2 extra steps of filtering to that whiskey to make it our own. Okay. And that's what we bottle up, and we, everything, the reasons that it was chosen, taste profile, mash bill, which is the recipe, all of that. We want it to be very, very similar to historically what Nearest and Jack would have been making at the time when Nearest was distilling. Okay. So we had our first whiskey out, which was the 1856, and that's the 100 proof, and it's aged 8 to 12 years. And then over a year ago now, they brought out another product, and it's a small batch, and that's the 1884, the one with the white label. And so Fawn had the idea to have a descendant curate each batch, because these are small batches, right? So you blend these batches together, and then you can line them up and taste them and decide which one you like best. So it just turned out that Victoria Edie Butler, who is the great-great-granddaughter of Uncle Nearest, was the first one up. Wow. So she tastes it. And again, she does not come from the whiskey business either. She tastes it and chooses her favorite batch. And we bottle it up and we send it out. And there were some spirit awards that had happened right after this was released. And so you submit your bottles of spirits to these awards, and they choose based on category, and they taste it all blind. They don't know what they're tasting, what brand they're tasting, I should say. And we won double gold and a chairman's trophy. We won the highest award you could possibly win. Yes, right out of the gate.
Bam! Smack him right in the face.
Yes. So Fawn decided that was it. Victoria has the palate. that was it. She's going to be our master blender now. And so she began working with Jerry to learn and understand the process. And so she is in charge of all of our blends for 1884 now. So what you have happening is you have Sherry Moore, who's a great, great niece of Jack Daniel, and you have Victoria Edie Butler, the great, great granddaughter. They're working together again in a distillery making whiskey. So we've come
women power. That's what I'm talking about right there.
That's right. And they're working as equals as well, which is really important. Really important. And so that's another, crazy part of the story that we're able to go full circle like that. And we do have a board of directors, and descendants sit on that board, and there's descendants who run the foundation. And so we do a lot of charity work through the foundation as well. So the family is very, very heavily involved in everything that we do with Uncle Nearest. And we also broke ground on our own distillery, which was really exciting. And normally it would be open, but unfortunately, because of COVID, we don't do tours at the moment, sadly. But we should be able to start producing in our own distillery next year, which will be really exciting. But like I said, we have put a lot of whiskey back in barrels, and we'll be aging it on property very, very soon.
And that's in Tennessee?
So that's exciting.
Is that location?
Yep. We're right next door to Lynchburg. We're in a place called, it's spelled Shelbyville, but apparently you're supposed to say Chauville.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good luck with that.
I still can't get it right.
Good luck with that.
So I just call it Shelbyville.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you another question here based on that. Are there anything in the makings, maybe some new batches, something new coming up that maybe, I don't know if you could discuss, or there's something in the makings?
We might have something new coming out next year, after the new year. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Not a problem.
Fawn holds her cards pretty close to her chest, which is smart, because we're all social butterflies. So, but I could say pretty safely right now, keep your eyes open for something.
Okay, so Uncle Nearest is making moves.
Yes.
Making moves. Wow.
Yeah. So the exciting thing, just to sum up the story, is that I'm very proud to work for a Black-owned brand that is a major whiskey brand. We've got so many firsts that the list is so big I can't even remember. We're the first female-owned major American whiskey brand. We're the first Black-owned major spirits brand. We're the fastest-growing American independent whiskey brand in U.S. history. We're the most awarded whiskey for 2 years now. American whiskey or bourbon.
Okay, you guys are rocking.
Period.
You're rocking. You're hitting them hard. You're coming out the gate hitting them hard. Very excited for you guys. I'm very happy for you.
That's our story.
Hitting them hard. Okay. Now you're on the West Coast. Is there anybody like on the East Coast that's a rep, or you say you got ambassador overseas? How many ambassadors are there? I mean,
oh boy, we're getting close to having one in almost every state in the U.S.
Oh, I like that.
Now we have someone that takes care of every single state. Some people have 2 states or 3 states. Well, mostly just 2 states. So we have the whole country covered at this point. If you don't, I think like Arizona and New Mexico, our gal Jen takes care of both of those, and then Tammy, who takes care of the Carolinas, has both of those. But yeah, we've got a brand ambassador. Kitty takes care of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and we call him Jersey John. He takes care of Connecticut and New York.
Well, we're skipping some stuff now. I'm gonna be on the Philly side, Delaware. I heard you say Jersey, but obviously he must be North Jersey. So how about the Philly, Delaware, Maryland area?
Yep. So that's another Jennifer. So I'll put you in touch with her. She's awesome.
Thank you.
And then we have Aubrey. He's in Maryland, and then we've got the Mac Newell. He's got we call him the velvety voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage.
He's a broadcaster as well.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Say no more on that end. So he's got the Don Juan pipes.
He does. We all try to do it. Everyone, we're like, hi, I'm Mac. I can't do it.
Hey, this is the Mac
so
man.
Hard.
Come down and get your Uncle Nearest. Don't get too drunk because you might not make it home. Oh, wow. But definitely put me in contact with Jennifer because, a lot of the lounges down this way, we actually do events and have BYOB. We have some at the bar. So that would be a great, I'm pretty sure everyone, we could pack the house.
Yeah.
We're in COVID right now, but, once this thing kind of passes, we can make some moves on that.
Yeah.
So definitely put me in contact with her.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right. So now I know you said you was new to cigars because I ain't gonna hold you long because, the president's debate is tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Today is Tuesday.
I don't know if I have the strength for it.
3rd. What's today's date? The 29th. Yeah, today is the 29th, 2020, and the debates start on tonight. Yeah, whatever. But okay, so you said you're new to cigars. What have you been smoking? Because I know you started with the big boy. You had Cohiba. So you're not even, you're out my league already. I mean, price range, like how much that costs? Oh, I need a job, Uncle Nearest.
That cigar was something else. Yeah, I've been puffing on cigars for maybe like 2-3 years, maybe, but not really. I mean, when you're in whiskey, that comes up a lot. Not really. I've done a lot of cigar and whiskey events where the cigar person would come in and take care of that part of it, probably for the past 8 years. But I would say the past year, I've been getting a little bit more serious about it, and since we've been doing our shows with the amazing Cigar Mike, we started in May. And so every month, so it's the first Thursday of every month on the Uncle Nearest Facebook or Must See Whiskey TV channel on YouTube, we do a different pairing. And Mike likes to choose independent brands, women-owned brands, Black-owned brands, minority-owned. And so I've had the opportunity to really begin with a lot of information, and I keep a little journal. Right now I'm smoking a Don Kiki Connecticut, which I really like these. I'm starting to learn about kind of, the wrappers that I like, flavor profiles, understanding, that Cohiba was probably the most robust cigar.
It's a full body. Yeah, probably more like near closer to full body. Probably might be like a medium.
Oh yeah,
like the medium opposed to going straight, hard to the full body. Got to work your way up there. Yeah. You're young. You're young.
Yes. I like that. I know I like Ecuadorian very much. Okay. And it's funny. I lived in Connecticut for a couple of years. And had I known now, damn it. So it's the shade tobacco capital of the world. Yes. And I know the family who grows the shade tobacco there.
Well, who don't you know, Taylor? Taylor, like, you know everybody. Taylor knows everybody. You're connected with everything. You've been around the world.
It was a weird connection that I didn't. And I remember asking, I knew the family, the wife of the man who really is running it now. His dad was kind of retired. And then I was curious and said, oh, because you drive by it. The town's called Windsor, and anywhere you drive, like even like they started building like corporate parks, and there's fields of the tobacco everywhere. But the barns look very unusual. And so that's what I was curious about, why the barns looked so different.
Now see, look at that.
Come take a tour. And so he kind of walked me around and explained like opening the slats, and they do it the traditional way still. It was fascinating. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it do sound pretty cool. See, you get to experience all this. I'm getting a little jealous here. I'm not gonna lie, Sailor. I'm getting jealous. Like, man, I want to live a life like this. Like, man, I gotta go to work every day. You know what I mean? Knock on doors, hope somebody's home. I want to just smoke cigars and make drinks. I'm getting jealous, but hey.
Oh God, it's not that easy. I wish it was. I want to
make it sound like it. You just make it look easy. That's all.
Okay, I'll keep doing
you just make it look easy. Well, look, Sailor, is there anything else that you want to touch on that maybe we didn't touch on this evening?
I don't think so. I'm just, I'm appreciative right now during COVID that obviously I have a job and that we've been able to do a lot of wonderful things from our brand. We've donated over 300,000 pieces of PPE
Oh, wow.
to
Beautiful.
frontline and essential workers. That's through our foundation, the Nearest Green Foundation. We started the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative, and we are working together to change the spirits industry from the bottom to the top. So we have an amazing woman, Tracy Franklin, who is our first person to benefit from this initiative. She is apprenticing to be a master distiller, and she's a Black woman.
Okay.
And so really just, making sure we are creating space and giving those opportunities to people of color is really the purpose of this initiative. And so that happened during, COVID as well. So it's a terrible time right now. Don't get me wrong. Of course it is. But any chance you can find the light in the darkness is important to me. And I hope I've helped, just like you with your podcast, to just take people away from it for a little bit, even if it's for an hour, just focus on something else that's enjoyable and relaxing. And I'm blessed to do that.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Sailor. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. You educated us. I mean, Uncle Nearest, again, we're wishing you the best of luck in the future. Sound like it's an amazing company. And I just appreciate you being a guest on Smoke World. So look,
thanks for having me.
If you ever come over to the East Coast, because I'm on the West Coast, I haven't been on the West Coast in a while. If you come over here, you look me up, and I'll be sure to buy you a cigar and a drink.
Oh, well, I'll bring the whiskey.
Hey,
come on.
Now
you just take care
you
of
ain't saying nothing but a word now.
Bring some friends. We'll have a good time.
Well, thank you, Sal. Thank you so much for your time. You take care and you be safe.
You too. Thanks,
all right,
Kevin.
Take care of
Appreciate it.
yourself.
Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of Smoke World is in the books. We want to thank Sailor. That's a hell of a story. Uncle Nearest. So if you're not familiar, now you are. Go check the whiskey out. It's an excellent whiskey. Props to the Uncle Nearest crew. Good looking out. Again, follow me on Instagram, SmokeWorld50. Email smokeworld50@gmail.com. You know what I forgot to mention, folks, which I don't mention most of the time? If you're listening to this on the Anchor platform, there actually is an icon that allows you to leave me a message to say, hey, what's up? What's up? You suck. You're great. Whatever the case may be. So I would encourage you to do that. I'm also now taking donations. That's right. So we can bring you all the episodes you need to hear, the subject matters you want. So holla at your boy. Good looking out. Enough talking. Peace. See you on the other side.